Good evening and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live via SHR Media and High Plains Pundit. And I haven't been on High Plains in I don't know how long. Why did I automatically say that? Not broadcasting live on High Plains Pundit Talk Radio, but broadcasting live on SHR Media and live on Facebook as well. I'm trying a little something new as an experiment, and I hope it is working well. I'm sure people will tell me if it is not working well or not. Or not. I can see it on one area of Facebook, and I can see it through the new application that I'm using. But anywho, welcome to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, as I said, broadcasting live from beautiful Cape May via SHR Media. And my guests today are going to be Grant Haber and Zach Beach. Grant Haber is an IED expert, training and technology expert. He's going to talk to us about anti-terrorism solutions. And then a little change of pace for the second hour. We're going to speak with Zach Beach, who is a real estate expert, and he's going to talk to us about buying and selling on terms. So I'm excited about that. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to see anyone in the chat or anyone who can actually see this video. I can see that I'm streaming live, but I don't see that anyone else can see me streaming live because it's odd that there's nobody there. So just saying that for the record. But my guest for the first hour, Grant Haber, is not going to be here until 5:30 today. Oh, I saw one person like my video. That's good. Hopefully they can hear me. Maybe James will tell me whether or not he can hear me. That's the other test. I figured I'd try this out before my guest came. He's not scheduled to come in till 5:30. So I have a little bit of time to experiment with the video with this new technology a little bit. What's the best way to do it is just to go live and try it. I did it with someone else, and it worked out really well, so I wanted to try it for my show and see how well it would work. Hopefully James, who just checked into the chat, will be able to tell me whether or not he can actually hear me. Or no, or if you can't hear me, because I'm not certain. And hearing is kind of the really important part of radio, as you might imagine. But anyway, my guest for the second hour, like I said, is going to be Zach Beach. We actually talked to his dad not too long ago, who is Chris Prefontaine, who also is in the real estate business, but Zach does a different part of the real estate business. So I'm excited to have him on the show as well today. Anyway, what's going on in the news? Well, the tariffs were just announced. Not tariffs officially, but President Trump just announced that if Mexico does not get its act together as far as having illegal immigrants come across the border, that he was going to put tariffs on them as well, starting at 5% and then incrementally at 5% if they continue to go on and not take care of the illegals coming across the border, which I don't think is a bad idea. But from what I understand, he was advised not to do that by both two of his major financial advisors. So that's just an interesting little tidbit. But you have to make them feel the pain some kind of way, is the way I see it. And tariffs is certainly one way to do that. Of course, on the other side of that is the fact that tariffs can also be a tax on Americans, because prices can go up for Americans. And so that's the rub. Anything that we get from Mexico can now be a problem if, as far as prices going up. So that's an issue for us to try to solve, to try to manage. But I'm not sure that the problem with Mexico's government is that it's seriously corrupt. That's And so you're not dealing with a normal government. Not that we don't have some corruption in our government. Of course we do, but it's like Mexico's government is entirely corrupt. And that's a serious problem. And so you can't negotiate with them like you would negotiate with a normal everyday government. So that's the biggest thing going on. And also the stock market, because of that. I don't know that I would use the word tanked, but it took a serious hit today by about 350 points. So that's, also a serious problem. I am hoping that someone in the chat can tell me whether or not they can actually hear me through this video, because I want to make sure that you're able to hear me. If you can't, I know somebody will definitely get on and tell me, hey, I cannot hear you at all. I see a couple likes, but I can't tell whether or not people can hear me. Somebody will tell me whether or not they can hear me. If they can't, they'll comment somewhere, I hope, and tell me that they're not that they're not able to hear me, especially since I've been going for now 17 minutes now. So you're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guests today are Grant Haber and Zach Beach. We will be back in a couple of moments.
Recently, actor Jeff Daniels stated, quote, "If President Trump is reelected, that will be akin to the end of democracy," unquote. Mr. Daniels doesn't realize it, but that would be a good thing. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, the United States was founded upon the principles of the importance of the individual and unalienable rights that come from God, not big government. However, by the 1930s, many opposers of liberty in both government and academia referred to the United States as a democracy, which means mob rule, and places the rights of the individual below that of democracy-inspired mob rule. In fact, mob rule democracy is a first step in the process of eliminating both personal responsibility and true liberty. That is why I hope the re-election of President Trump will bring about the end of democracy and return the Constitution to its rightful place as the standard rule of law and control upon the tentacles of big government. God bless you, my fellow Americans. God bless America. And may America bless God. I'm Ron Edwards. Join me live and in Living Radio Fridays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on AmericaMatters.us. Sponsored by David E. Garrett Jewelers.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialists remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Broadcasting live via SHR Media. And I actually am broadcasting live via SHR Media today because I have been having problems with my live broadcast, and it appears that it decided that it's just going to work perfectly today, which is very funny. And yes, that is a magic rock, which I forgot to turn on, Robert Williams. I forgot to turn it on because I was running late today from an appointment. Before I jumped on the air, and I forgot to turn on my magic rock. Actually, it's very good for the air. It's a Himalayan salt lamp, and it's And it's very good for your air. It gives off good ions and cleanses the air and is very good for your lungs and what have you. So, but usually I have it turned on so that my air is clear and my ions are clear, especially when I decide to exercise outside, which I did today, which I shouldn't do because I'm extremely allergic to, what's it called? The outside. So I try to make sure that I have that handy. And you guys will notice that I have 2 mugs today. Usually I have 1, but today I'm operating with 2 mugs today. One of my fans sent me this for Valentine's Day, that he loved me so much he would shut down a government for me, which I thought is just adorable. And then, of course, I have a mug for one of my sponsors today, which I also absolutely love, from Biz Social Personal Touch. I couldn't decide if I wanted water or coffee today, to be honest. And so I decided, seeing that this is America and we can just really have it all, that I would just go ahead and have both. So I'm drinking coffee and water at the same time. It's a 2-hour show, and I needed a little bit of energy. I really felt like a cup of coffee, but I also was dehydrated, so there you go. So my guest today is going to be Grant Haber. I'm really excited about having Grant Haber on today because he's a security expert and IED expert, and we're going to talk to him about anti-terrorism. So I'm really stoked about that. Halfway freaked out, just like when I talked to I wish it were tequila. Just like when I talked to Mike Fitzpatrick about cybersecurity, like I have a feeling he's going to be telling us some pretty exciting stuff. So I can't wait to talk to him at 5:30, which is going to be in a couple of minutes. What else is going on in the news besides the stock market going down, besides tariffs on Mexico? All I did was go to work today. And then every time I come when I come home and turn on the news, I'm like, what happened now? Uber plans to change its strategy. Did you hear that now you're going to, now we always were able to get an Uber rating, which, by the way, I never looked at my Uber rating. I'm kind of afraid, especially since I use Uber all the time, particularly when I'm in DC or when I'm in New York City. And I don't know that I'm always the nicest under whatever condition I might be in when I'm using my Uber, which could be very stressed because I'm on the way to do some type of media hit and I'm trying to get ready, or some kind of conference where I'm about to speak or whatever. So I don't know. I'm afraid to look at my rating. But the point is, is that now they will be able to kick you off for not being nice. I don't know if I agree with this, and I'm going to tell you why. Since when, I understand we're capitalists and all that good stuff, but since when does the customer have to be nice? And listen, I think that I'm nice most of the time, unless you're not nice to me, or unless you're being obnoxious, or you ask me out 25 times and I've already told you no, and now you've made the ride super uncomfortable. But now we get rated. Now I have to be ultra nice to my driver. Although I do have a funny story. My friend and I were on our way back from an adult drinking establishment in DC one night for a conference, and one of us got kicked out of the Uber. It was not me. I was merely a bystander. I was back in the back of the car, chilling, behaving myself, and the Uber driver got lost, and the person I was with didn't handle that very well. And that person got kicked out of the Uber, but me being the chick that I am, and it being some kind of bizarre hour in the morning, of course I got out with her, and we ended up having to walk to our hotel. And now I'm thinking, did I get that Uber because she may have messed up my Uber rating? Just saying. It was an adult drinking establishment, Robert. It was a restaurant that ended in adult drinking, as it tends to do when I'm hanging out in DC. Listen, it's very stressful. Teaching, politics, media. and I deal with teenagers all day. Levon, I'm sensing that the people in the Facey chat, all of you who are listening to SHR Media Land or listening to this via an iTunes download, that the people in my Facey chat are being very judgy right now. I don't know. That's just what it seems like. And all I'm sitting here doing is drinking water and coffee. But anyway, but yeah, Uber's going to start taking people off of their app if you don't behave yourself. Which, like I said, I don't know if I'm super in agreement with any of that. Now, here's some good news. Speaking of adult drinking establishments, although I'm not sure if this is good news, the Dollar Tree, the dollar stores are going to start selling booze. Now, alcohol. Did I say booze? But it's by Friday afternoon, dealing with kids in the summer. Teenagers in the summer, it's booze at this point. But this, my friends, is water. And this is coffee. Because it's been that kind of day. I've been busy today. But Family Dollar's going to start selling coffee. Going to start selling alcohol. I predict a stock spike. I mean, I'm no super stock market genius, but I predict that the stock for Family Dollars will be going up very shortly. Waffle House serves adult beverages. No, Waffle House is not where I live. I live in New Jersey. Probably down south where you live, Robert. They sell adult beverages at Waffle House. Boom. But but not up here. New Jersey. Basically, the rule in New Jersey is if it's fun, then don't do it. If it's fun or has any kind of liberty or freedom whatsoever, unless of course it's smoking weed, because they're trying to legalize that here. But any other kind of freedom that you're entitled to by the Constitution, if it's New Jersey, their goal is pretty much to just kill it. That's pretty much what their what New Jersey's goal is, because it's a blue state and they are a bunch of killers. I still live near an island that has blue laws. I live near the beach. I live near actually 4 beaches: Avalon, Cape May, Wildwood, Ocean City. Okay, I guess more than that, Stone Harbor, Sea Isle City. I live near all those beaches, and I believe Ocean City still has blue laws. They don't sell alcohol on Sunday or something. I don't know, because I don't go there because there's no alcohol. So no, I'm kidding. That's not why. That's not why. I just never been there, and I've lived here for 20 years. But anyway, so Family Dollar's doing that. They're going to be selling alcohol. Not a bad look, if you ask me. Oh, good grief! So North Face had an ad. Apparently they had doctored photos of Brazilian nature landmarks on Wikipedia with models wearing the brand's clothes, and I guess they said that was digital vandalism, and they had to apologize. Is there anything that we won't be offended by? I'm just curious. Is there anything that we won't be offended by? Hey, no booze before church. I go to church completely sober. I have to. I have a lot to... Me and God usually have a lot to discuss on Sunday. So by the time I get to Sunday, we have a little chat every morning, but by Sunday I typically also have a lot to talk to him about. So so I have to go completely sober. Although this Sunday, I don't think that's going to happen because I have some kind of executive board something meeting. By the way, if you didn't catch, I'm a member of Project 21. I don't know if they lowered their standards or what's going on, but I am a member of Project 21. I'm kidding. No, Project 21 is really a wonderful 25-year-old organization. And that is with the National Center for Policy Research. It's an arm of that, or a project, I should say, of that organization of Black conservatives. And I had the privilege, along with Chris Arps and Mr. McClendon, to write a press release on President Trump's new immigration law, and there's been a couple of interviews regarding that. So keep your eyes out for that. I did like 3 pre-recorded interviews this week, and I have another one that I just booked for next week. So keep your eyes out for that, please. I'm very excited about all of those interviews, and just hoping that you never know how these media hits are going to go when you are the one being interviewed. I don't know. I just, sometimes I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job or not, and it depends on the personality of the host and all that good stuff. But anyway, I've posted the press release, so check that press release out. It's about the memorandum. Thank you, Willie. It's the big Willie in the house. It's about the memorandum that President Trump signed to make us go by the actual laws that are on the books, making sure that people who sponsor immigrants actually pay for them if they use public services. And so Project 21 came out with a press release to support President Trump in that regard. And I was one of the people who had the privilege of commenting on that. And I've been doing media hits all week about that. So that has been fun and frankly a little bit stressful, because I just want to represent that organization well and do it justice and do its other members justice. So hopefully I have been. But check out that press release. From what I understand, it was passed around the White House, so maybe somebody high up saw what we all had to say about that. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. In a few moments, I'm going to get in touch with my guest, Grant Haber, who is an IED specialist and a specialist in anti-terrorism. Now, I want to know, since did my screen go black? I'm experimenting with new technology today as well. And when I switch tabs, I want to know if my screen went black. Hopefully it didn't. It seemed like it may have. If it did, let me know. Doug Potts, my unpaid quality control specialist, as well as my unpaid publicist. Let me know if my screen goes black when I go off. And right now I'm going to get in touch with my guest, Grant Haber, who I'm very excited to have on the show today. But because I had a doctor's appointment today, I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to get the show started on time. And so I asked him if I could call him
Hello?
At 5:30. Hi, you're on the air with Melanie Collette for Money Talk with Melanie. Is this Grant Haber?
Speaking. How you doing today?
Hi, very good to meet you. You're live. I apologize. I was just explaining to the audience that I was afraid I was going to run a little bit late today and get the show started late today, but that I was very, very excited to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
So I'm sorry that it was so sudden and I didn't give you a chance to warm up, but but that happens.
Not a while. Should I do a few quick push-ups?
And you're good to go. So before I go any further, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and about your background?
Sure. I've been working counter-improvised explosive device initiatives for more than 20 years. In 2000, I created the first high-throughput security checkpoint in the United States with explosive detection portals. A couple of years later, I created the first test method performance standard for bomb-resistant trash cans for public safety. I worked at the inception of Department of Homeland Security, literally within a month of Secretary Ridge taking over as the first Secretary of Homeland Security. I worked with DHS headquarters to move our country in a direction to establish test standards for bomb-resistant trash cans so that we make sure these anti-terrorism technologies that are being deployed to keep the public safe actually work. And I've done a lot of work since then working with the military, developing technologies, developing training programs, and working with NATO forces and partner nation forces to help choke off the flow of bomb-making materials and help dismantle bomb-maker support networks.
Wow. That's amazing. So I have so many questions to ask. So my first question is, can you explain to the audience, we hear the I guess the acronym, I should say, IED all the time. Can you explain what that stands for and what exactly that is? I think we all know it's an explosive, but the nature of it, if you would explain that.
Sure. An IED is an improvised explosive device. In simple terms, it's something that's intended to inflict harm or cause a lot of damage or both. And they come in a wide variety of forms, from suicide vests to roadside bombs to vehicle bombs to you name it kind of bombs that are built and employed against military, police, and civilians.
And so it's improvised because it's not something that's manufactured commercially. It's because it's something that's homemade. Is that why they refer to it as improvised?
It kind of makeshift. Let's put it together and go out and cause lots of havoc. And it's low cost. The materials that are used to make the IEDs are also low cost and readily available in many different forms, and they're very lethal. So this has become and will be for the foreseeable future terrorist weapon of choice.
And that's why you would classify the IED problem. Is that the biggest crisis or killer of our soldiers in these areas that we're trying to protect? And where we're still fighting legitimate wars, like in Afghanistan?
Improvised explosive devices are the number one casualty producer on the battlefield, not just for U.S. forces, but for coalition partner nation forces and civilians. The majority killed, wounded, and traumatic brain injuries are a direct result of the IED threat that is enduring now for almost 50 years on U.S. soil, dating back to the 1970 Madison, Wisconsin University bombing, to present-day wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, you name it. All those countries are dealing with the IED crisis.
And how would you say, and I guess, I mean, there's so many things at stake here. We live in the United States where we have a free country, we have a free press, we have access to the internet, we have things that, in other countries, in China, I actually wrote a paper on this. I was amazed about Google in China. I guess I had forgotten that they were communists. But when I wrote the paper about them and all the restrictions that they have on the internet, we just don't understand how fortunate we are. But on the other hand, one of the reasons why people are able to make these devices is because of access to such information. And I'm wondering, as somebody who works to prevent these things, where you fall on that situation. Like, what's your opinion on how much access we should have? Do you have an opinion on it?
I do. I feel strongly that our best defense at home is a strong offense overseas. We know which countries terrorists go, extremists go to train and to learn how to build these IEDs, and then they import this knowledge back to their respective countries. We need to do a much better job training and equipping. The term is enabling partner nation military and police forces to become sensors of the most common bomb-making materials. We also need to be very cognizant of the environment where these tools will be deployed. What I mean by that is, if you look at our airports, for example, and you go through a security checkpoint and you get pulled to the side and they do a swab sample on your bag, and then they insert the swab into a machine that does an analysis and it's looking for red light, green light. Those machines are looking for very, very invisible to the eye, let's just call it, residues of explosives. Now, in that airport environment, it's a sterile environment. You shouldn't be encountering explosive residues. But if you take that exact same technology and you put it into a highly contaminated combat zone, now you have a problem where this target invisible residue transfers from surface to person, person to person, and at the end of the day, when you use those tools, which work great in a sterile environment, you put them in a highly contaminated combat zone, your end result is going to be a conclusion where these machines believe everybody's a bomb maker. So you got to understand that not only is it important to take away the materials that we know are being used to make these bombs and dismantle their support networks, it's vital that we do so in a manner that does not violate civilian trust. Because with trust comes support, and it becomes a force multiplier, and that's how we start to regain a tactical edge over a network of radicalized individuals who are willing to blow themselves up for their cause.
It's one of the most amazing things that they're willing to do that. That's just that Levon Wilson, who's in the Army, he's in the Facebook chat. I'm streaming live on Facebook, and I know that he's part of the armed forces. He wanted me to ask you about acoustic IEDs. What's the course of action, or if you're aware of them? Because he says that Russia has developed them and used them in Iraq or proxy wars.
Which specific? I didn't catch what he said.
Acoustic. He said acoustic IEDs. And what's are you aware of them? And is there a different course of action for the acoustic ones, I guess, versus another kind?
Well, he's referring to a trigger sensor. So I guess an IED triggered by some kind of sensor. In this case, I'm assuming a noise. What we're focusing on and talking with the DoD about is targeting the materials before they even become explosive. There's a lot of technologies that look for IEDs. Our focus is on preventing those IEDs from being made. So if we target the materials, we not only have the ability to choke off the supply to the IED factories, but we can also dismantle the support networks.
And now, is that cutting off the supply to specific countries, or is that cutting off the supply to the United, to everyone? What's the constitutional approach to that?
Well, in Afghanistan, let's use that as one example. I know the president is looking to end that war.
Right.
It's our longest war. In that country in 2010, President Karzai issued a presidential decree that banned ammonium nitrate and calcium ammonium nitrate from being imported, possessed, distributed, stored, etc. That material at the time was used to make more than 85% of the IEDs in country that were killing and maiming not just U.S. forces, but NATO Afghan forces and Afghan civilians. So they imposed a presidential decree. So these materials are illegal. They're banned. If you possess them, they can be seized. You can be detained and arrested. In other countries, there's different rules where they focus on large amounts. If there's an anomaly purchase, if someone buys 500 pounds of something, or someone goes into a place and buys a large amount of material that could be used to make homemade explosives, and they've never been there before, or there's something out of place. The FBI goes around the country educating different kinds of businesses to look for these anomalies, and this goes down to see something, say something. In the United States and other countries that, free and open societies, it's much harder. So we require other types of intelligence, which then gets into those issues where people feel maybe their privacy is being invaded. From my perspective, you asked about my opinion. If you're not a bad guy out there committing crimes, then you're not going to be getting picked up by the algorithms and the systems. But if you are someone that's involved in planning a terrorist attack, then I'm all for the algorithms to pick you out and, people move in to see what you're all about.
I'm with you on that. I'm not too concerned. Now, I know I have a cybersecurity expert who's on my show regularly who probably disagrees with what I'm about to say, maybe a bridge too far. But I'm all about gather as much intelligence as you can. I'm not doing anything wrong. So if it's going to prevent someone from, blowing up something or or shooting up something or whatever, then get it. Is the way I see it. But
we live in a society where you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. People complain if you're, invading their privacy, but then if you don't do a good enough job, and then there's 100 dead children or whatever the case may be. A bombing on a subway or on a bus or in a building, then it's like, why the hell didn't you do more? What we need to do is we all need to start working together, but we really need to start doing a better job overseas, because we know the countries where they're training people, radicalizing people, teaching them how to build bombs, yet we're not doing what needs to be done over there to eradicate those threats from those countries, to make it harder for people to go somewhere with like-minded, crazy people that want to inflict harm on the free world.
And, we at some point, we have to do something. So, and there's usually only a couple of choices. So if the choice is between putting, like you said, putting schools and children and people at risk, or giving up a bit of your privacy, then, in my opinion, we might have to do that. But it's certainly a slippery slope, because, the government is the government. And we see what went on with, allegedly went on with President Trump and the surveillance and all of that kind of thing. He was technically just a regular citizen and a candidate for presidency, and it seems as though, at this point, that he was being spied on, or spied on or surveilled. If you, it's a very slippery slope when people have that much power.
Yep. There's a couple things to put into perspective. If we I'm just going to keep singling out Afghanistan because it's our country's longest war. The president wants to get out of the war, and there's a lot of good people that want to help him achieve that objective. They also want to make sure that we don't create the same vacuum in Afghanistan that was created in Iraq by a premature withdrawal without creating a program that would enable the Iraqis to prevent the IED crisis from taking ISIS from a new organization into a caliphate that we've had to spend 5 years, breaking it back. So 2 out of 5 Afghan children, that's 40%, are unable to go to school today after nearly 18 years of war. That's 40% of Afghan children cannot go to school. There's over 1,000 schools that are closed because of fear of these IEDs and attacks. This should not be after 18 years of war and $5.9 trillion invested in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. It just makes no good sense. So if we look at things from an economic standpoint, we need to start to realize that we can't afford to keep spending trillions of dollars to fight an enemy that uses $50 to $100 bags of oxidizers to make their most lethal weapon. Instead of high tech, we need to look more low tech, low cost, strategically targeted, and utilize not U.S. forces, because these aren't our countries, utilize partner nation forces to get out on that battlefield, to go into the local villages and provinces and start analyzing any and all unknown bulk materials that they come in contact with to determine if they're the most common bomb-making materials that the Department of Defense drilled down on and said, these 2 materials represent more than 90% of the bombs, we're going to go out there and we're going to rid this country of these two materials, and in the process of dismantling and the process of choking off the supply of these two bomb-making materials, we're going to have the opportunity to seize other weapons, as well as dismantle the enemy support networks. Now, we can start to deliver measurable gains. And what these measurable gains mean to the United States, because most people feel, what do I care about this Afghanistan war? We've already, had, thousands killed, tens of thousands wounded, and hundreds of thousands of traumatic brain injuries. Why should I care? The reason being is we're looking for an exit strategy, but we can't walk away from that country without pumping up its economy. Their economy is so far distressed with a 40% unemployment rate and IEDs going off around every other corner. We need to do something about that. So think about it economically. If we can help restore stability by taking away the most lethal weapon that's killing everybody, according to the United Nations reports and Inspector General's reports and DOD reports, we can increase mobility, and that's going to drive foreign investment. The foreign investment that will be pumped into Afghanistan is vital for our exit strategy.
Okay, now that makes a lot of sense. And, that approach seems to me to be a much better approach than the nation-building approach to bring democracy to... listen, I love democracy like everybody else, and I wish everybody could live in a democracy. But I do believe that there's some... Democracy has to be established the same way we established ours. They have to want it and fight for it. We can't go do it for them. So I think, but I think the economic piece is a very important point that you point out, because no matter who you are, no matter what form of government you have, that economic piece is very important. So no matter what kind of government you have. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
In a country where there's 40+% unemployment, suicide bomber recruitment is very high and very easy. People are willing to blow themselves up so their families can be provided for, in hopes that their families can make it another month, another year, another however long. This is a serious problem. There's hundreds of billions of dollars in investment money sitting on the sidelines, waiting for the opportunity to pour into Afghanistan, because Afghanistan has a lot of natural resources.
Right.
The United States has paid enough for this war, but we're not going to turn our backs on Afghanistan, kind of like we walked away from Iraq. All that did was create a bigger problem, a bigger threat that ended up pulling the United States back into the war, and has enabled Iran to move in, because the United States left a gap. If we do the same thing in Afghanistan, we're going to have countries moving in and doing the exact same thing and creating a bigger problem. So we need to look at this rationally and logically and focus on what's killing everybody. And if we can do that, and we can start to create some white space where these IEDs aren't going off on a daily basis and people can go from the airport to the embassy a mile down the road, it's going to set a precedent where people are going to start investing. And with investment money comes prosperity and stability, and that is vital for our exit strategy to our longest war and our biggest tax burden on the American taxpayer.
And it is a huge burden on the American taxpayer. I appreciate that. So what about in the United States, though? Are we at danger of suffering some type of large explosion in a hotel like we had in Sri Lanka a few months ago? Are there any dangers like that here? I would imagine there are. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that it doesn't happen more often. What is it that prevents that from happening here?
See, there's several ways of looking at it. First and foremost, we must recognize we're not immune. the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the 1995 Alfred Mira Building, Oklahoma City attack, the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, the Marine Corps 5K run down in New Jersey. There was an IED put in a trash can. We're not immune to this. We have thwarted attacks. A lot of the stuff you read about are some individual that wants to do something, and they seem to align themselves with informants or FBI agents and whatnot, and then they get to a certain point and then they take them down. From my perspective, I don't think that terrorists solely want to kill and maim and destroy. I think economic and psychological warfare plays a very, very big role in terrorism. We need to be right 100% of the time. They only need to be right once. They're sitting back, and we've spent $5.9 trillion with a T. They're spending a few $100s to go out and commit mass destruction with these low-tech IED weapon systems. So what we need to do here as a country, first and foremost, the basics. See something, say something. When we're out in public, we need to try very hard not to bury our faces in our cell phones and pay attention of our surroundings. Keep your phone in your hand. If you see something that's out of the ordinary, something that just doesn't look right, well, use your phone. Snap a little video and take some pictures and then forward them to your local law enforcement. See something, say something. It's only a matter of time before there's more attacks. Terrorism is not going to end. There's no magic silver bullet, magic wand. We just need to do a better job at the minimum overseas, because our best defense is a strong offense, and we need to give the law enforcement community here in the United States the resources that are necessary to gather the right intel.
Indeed. So listen, we're about to close this hour of the show. Can you tell my listeners where it is that they can get in touch with you if they want more information about your organization, which is the American Innovations?
Yes,
go ahead.
We can be reached at AmericanInnovations.com. We're also in the process of building out a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, and another website that is going to be all centered around IED crisis. So real soon, coming soon, will be IEDcrisis.com, and you can find IED Crisis on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. We're trying to do our best to create awareness, but we all need to work together towards a common objective.
I completely agree. I really appreciate you having me on the show today. You being on the show today. I was explaining in the open a little earlier that I've been doing a lot of media hits here recently. I appreciate you being on my show today. So all week long I've been on other people's shows. I apologize. But I really appreciate you being on the show and being really totally informative. I appreciate it so very much. And I'll have you back on the show anytime.
Thank you very much, Melody. Thank you, listeners. And see something, say something.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a good one. You're listening. You too. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. That was Grant Haber. He's an IED expert and founder of, I want to make sure that I have this absolutely right, and founder of American Innovations, which specializes in proactive anti-terrorism solutions. And he was very informative about the IED crisis. And about the IED crisis, not only in Afghanistan and other places where we're at war, but our vulnerability here in the United States as well. So I was very happy to have him on, and he did a fantastic job. We're going to take a brief break and come back with my guest for the second hour, who's Zach Beach. We'll be back in a few moments.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialist remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie.
MrCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our number one priority.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics,
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
and all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events? All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, the justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz. Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. And my guest for the second hour is Mr. Zachary Beach. He is a part of the Smart Real Estate Coach family in Newport, Rhode Island. He works alongside his wife, Kayla, his brother-in-law, Nick, and his father-in-law, Chris, who I've had on the show before, and a great support team. He's a successful real estate investor, completing over 100 deals in under 3 years. That is a lot. And he continues to buy and sell property without using his own cash, credit, or investors' money. He is co-authoring a second book, which is actually, it's already out. I have a copy of it behind me. The name of the book is called New Rules of Real Estate Investing, and I actually have that book right here. So those of you who can see a copy of the book, I have that book right here in my hot little hand. And actually, that's why I had it on the top shelf, because I wanted to make sure I whipped it out, because I knew he was going to be on the show shortly. And the subtitle is 24 Leading Experts Reveal Their Real Estate Secrets. So I wanted to properly introduce Mr. Zach Beach. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Melanie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm sorry I was running a little bit behind with my first guest. It happens occasionally.
Oh, it's okay. It must have been a really good conversation. So, no, absolutely fine with me. It's Friday. It's beautiful out. I'm good. I'm relaxed.
Oh, very good. It is. I don't know where. Wait a minute. I just read exactly where you are, but it's very nice in New Jersey right now, which it has not been for quite a few days.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's 75 here in Southern Rhode Island. So I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah, it's been really nice day today.
Yes, we've had rain every day. Well, listen, is there anything that I left out of your bio that you want to tell the audience?
No, not really. I think you did a fantastic job. Yeah, I've been buying and selling real estate now for about 3+ years, and I work along with my family. So talking about building and scaling a business with your in-laws is quite the story. But we fit well, and it's been a heck of a lot of time. And I'm just lucky enough to be able to do all this with a fantastic team before I turn 30. So.
That's amazing. And 100 deals in 3 years without using your own money. So I have to ask, how in the world do you do that? What are the first steps? What is one of the amazing tips that we can find in this book?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead and dive in this book where we not only hit our niche, but we really get to mastermind and dive into other fantastic experts in real estate. Yeah, we buy and sell property using a couple different techniques. One's a lease option. The other ones are owner financing and buying properties subject to the existing loan. So, yeah, pretty much just buying creatively with using paper instead of using your cash, your credit, or asking other investors for money.
I like it. I'm very interested in the lease option. In particular, because I think in this day and age, even though we have a very good economy, people are still having trouble coming up with big lump sums of money in order to get a house. And I hear one of the ways to do that is the lease option, but it seems to be complicated. How does that, do you need a lawyer in order to do a lease option? Are there some things that you should look out for as a buyer or a seller or somebody who's doing lease option? How does that work from the buyer's perspective?
Yeah, so of course, I mean, I always tell everybody to seek, your attorney's advice, but I always warn those as well, and just always ask when you're working with an attorney, how many creative financing deals have they done? Because there are a lot of attorneys out there, and I love my attorney, and I think it's always important to seek legal advice. But there's a lot of attorneys, especially in the real estate world, that just work inside their cookie-cutter box and just do the traditional closing. So just making sure that you're working with somebody that kind of thinks a little bit outside the box. But just being a regular person just trying to buy a property, maybe because your credit's a little off, or maybe you're self-employed and you just need some time in order to get what banks call seasoning. Typically, someone who's self-employed needs to show how much they're making for about 24 months. And I actually, personally, my wife, we actually bought our first property that we live in today on a lease auction. I was able to work with a homeowner who had a second home, that was willing to sell the property on a lease option. So we actually currently live in that property. So anybody out there that's looking to buy the property on a lease option, I've been there, especially investing, but also in my personal residence. But being somebody who needs their credit repaired, or even somebody that just needs to work up their lump sum, like you said, just make sure that you're structuring the deal accordingly, right? And make sure you're protecting yourself. Just like let's say, just treat it like any other real estate transaction. Just make sure you're protecting yourself.
So it's not much different than if you're leasing an apartment, except you're adding the buying component to that. Like, it's a similar thing that you're agreeing to certain things, but you're also adding to that. You're agreeing to the price of the home. You're agreeing to how long you're going to lease. You're agreeing to. Does that money have to be put in escrow, like they do with a security deposit for an apartment, or can the people who are selling the house do whatever they want with that money?
Sure. So the seller typically is going to want like a non-refundable deposit, or at least that's the way we sell our property. So when you're buying, you're trying to structure a deal or trying to structure a property that you want to live in, there's a couple components that you're going to be working with. You're going to be working on the purchase price, or the amount of equity that you're locking in with the homeowner. If there's a mortgage on the property, you're going to talk about how much you're going to be paying monthly. And if you have the ability to just take over the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance for the seller. That's how we structured it.
Okay.
And then in the future, you're going to structure, because that's how you can benefit from the principal pay down on this property. So you can actually leverage yourself by using the seller's mortgage already on the property, because there's already principal pay down coming off of it. So you can actually leverage that. And that way let's say you're going to agree upon an end date or a term in which you have to exercise the option. But on and before that end term, if you structure it correctly, all you're going to have to do is pay off the remaining balance of the mortgage and then pay the equity that you locked in with them at the beginning. And that certainly helps you. It actually helps you with your down payment in the future, as you can imagine.
Right, exactly. And all that, and you basically would want to make sure that all that is laid out in the beginning. And my guess is when you're quote unquote kind of done, so to speak, structuring that deal, that's probably at which point you can take it to a lawyer who has experience with those deals and have that person look it over and make sure it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people haven't gone through what we call our Quantum Leap Systems course, we have our attorney documents in there. So I recommend that you can already have those documents, say 95% done, and all you have to do is just go bring them based upon your state to a local attorney to make sure that there's nothing associated with just your state that's not in that document. So we actually have already done that for you. We can give you certainly the links after this during the call so that people can actually go get their documents if they want to dive into the course and find out a little bit more about buying and selling property this way. And if anything, a huge win, just like I said, I bought my own house, a huge win if you can structure a deal like this and not have to go to a bank to buy a property. It's a huge win, personally.
Exactly. You have a chapter in your book called Funding Worries Gone. And I think that's what people worry about the most is, how do I fund this venture, especially if they want to get into investing or if they want to buy a house themselves. So what are some other creative ways besides the lease option to fund either investing or buying a home?
Yeah, my favorite, I'll tell you, is if you get the seller to owner finance you the property. That allows you to get some huge leverage, and let me tell you why. So owner financing, just to back up for a second, or seller financing, or a vendor take back if you're in Canada, all that means is, and I'm assuming that the seller has a free and clear property. So let's say that there's no debt on the house.
Right.
Buying the property, owner financing, is perfect because what you can do is you can structure purchasing the property, taking title on the house. We put little to no money down on these, and then what we actually structure are principal-only payments per month with a balloon date in the future. So again, it's fantastic leverage, especially with the kind of the unstable market right now. If you get these really long terms, and you're getting that principal-only payments. Again, we're not paying interest every month. We're paying principal-only payments to to the seller. So you're getting huge principal pay down and really leveraging yourself against the market. So that's always my favorite type of deal because you get title, you get depreciation, you get all that benefit, plus you get full control of the property.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. I would think that market is rather small, but to hear, I mean, the way you're describing it, it seems like it's not as small of a market as I might think.
Yeah, well, I think it's about a third of homeowners are debt free
Really?
in the United States. So if you think about that, majority of those people don't need their money now. Because that's who we benefit with, or those are types of sellers that benefit from this type of deal. It's sellers that are looking to get the absolute most out of their property, but are willing to take payments with a balloon date in a period of time. So if that person, under the assumption that if that seller needed money today and they're not set up correctly, then they would have already pulled out some money, refied, and pulled out their money already from the property. So you're going to be really working with, if you're in this type of business, working with sellers that are looking to maximize the return, maybe draw out some of that capital gains for over a period of time, and certainly maximize the return.
Excellent. Now, one of the things that I have the privilege of doing, and I say privilege, quote unquote, no, it really is a privilege, is teaching financial literacy to high schoolers. It's required. New Jersey happens to be, if New Jersey does one thing right, it happens to be one of the 6 states in the country that requires financial literacy by law, and I have the privilege of teaching that to high schoolers. And one of the things, of course, that I try to teach them is to invest their money early, to diversify, et cetera, et cetera. What are the advantages to investing in real estate as early as you possibly can?
Oh, yeah. Well, I want to first commend you. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic that you're teaching high schoolers. I wish I knew how to handle my money better when I was in high school because I would be light years ahead of where I am today. So
me and you both,
I commend you for that.
And I tell them, like, when I was your age, if I had this information, it would have been wonderful. And I give them all kinds of, they'll figure it out. Out. I'm not sure they're totally buying it because, I'm old and I don't know what I'm talking about. But even though awesome. I have a podcast and all these degrees and stuff, but I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that. Well, Melanie, the advantage to investing in real estate, of course, is you have a physical asset that sits on land as well. So, I mean, the stock market, we talk about this all the time, the stock market, no matter how big the company is, it could go to zero at some point in time.
Absolutely.
You don't have any control of that. Even back in 2008, when my father-in-law, his properties, you hit hard, his properties went down to roughly about a third of what the overall price was before. But the point is, they still were at a third of it. So it never went down to zero. So as long as you have the ability to invest in real estate, and then, of course, think about the long term. Really, it's a long-term game, especially. Plus, you get depreciation on the property. So as markets go through their cycles, because we're in many different markets, even where I am, there's probably about 3 different markets. They go through their cycles, and as long as you're sitting on these properties, you're going to be able to make out in the long run. That's just what's been proven. So as long as you're not in a rush, and if for some reason the market does take a downturn now, should be in a good position on where we buy. We'll be buying up a lot more properties. But let's say you're still holding on the properties from before. As long as you're waiting it out, you can continue to either rent or cash flow these properties, and eventually the depreciation will go down. The appreciation on these properties will eventually go up. So it's just I don't know other way to invest. I think it's the best way to invest in my mind.
That makes a lot of sense to me. People are always going to be seeking some place to live, for sure. And so, I tell the students, I'm like, you want to do some stocks, some bonds, some, and some real estate investing. You really want to spread it around when you start thinking about investing, and buying property is certainly one way to do it. If you're brand new, say you're old like me, and you're brand new, and you're like, I want to. Well, I'm old to them, and you want to get started real estate investing. How would you? Where would you begin?
Yeah. So obviously, there's many different niches in real estate, and we're one of many. How I would approach any single thing that I want to learn is I would first do some research, find out which niche that fits best for you, and I recommend that if you haven't read the book out there, then I would dive into our new book, as you're going to be able to touch upon many niches, and you get them in these quick snippet chapters with some expert advice, which is just a really cool place to dive into. So I would first find out the niche you want to get involved with, and then find out the mentor, because every single thing that I've wanted to learn and at least master, I've always had to have a coach or a mentor or somebody that is in the place and where I want to be in the future. So I highly recommend that. And once you do that, then it's really, putting the blinders on. Then you have to just trust in the system in which you decided to be a part of, and put the blinders on and make it I always say, a 3 to 5 year plan. Because if you really want to get good at anything, it's going to take some time for you to learn the systems, learn the little nuances in the business, and once you're able to do that, that's when you're going to be able to create these great deals. Out of those 100 deals that I've done, there's some really great deals towards the end of those hundreds, because the first couple months I had some big hiccups. It's just the nature of the business. So, but I lived and I learned, and just continue to move it forward. So that would be my 3 steps on which I would do: find a niche, find a mentor, and then put your blinders on. I
like it. That's very good. I have a question in the Facebook chat. Somebody asked if you had any opinions about the semi-dead strip malls. I think that's an excellent question. Thank you, Doug, from the Facebook chat. What do you think about? And I guess what he means is from an investing perspective. He said they're semi-dead, which I tend to agree. A lot of these strip malls, you see many empty stores. Are they? Yeah. What do you think about leasing those properties out, or buying them or investing in them or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. But that's a whole niche in itself, to be 100% honest with you. People that develop big commercial spaces. I can tell you what seems to be popular, and this is definitely outside of my knowledge, but what seems to be popular right now are those big trampoline places. And those big trampoline places seem to be finding their ways in every single big strip mall that happens to be there, because they're looking for those big commercial spaces. And you can always find those franchises in like Entrepreneur Magazine. But I recommend, if you have a really good plan in place and you know how to develop commercial real estate, then yes, I think those commercial strip malls there's always going to be a place to make money if there's real estate involved. I
think another thing that's happening with those, and I think there's one happening in my area or near where I live, is that they're also using them for homeless shelters, like the when the weather is bad and things like that. That's another thing that I think there's a county nearby that bought one. Kmart moved out, and they bought it, and they're using it to home. And of course, when the government does it, they're really kind of double dipping, because they get the ratables off of that, and they own the property. So they're really kind of paying themselves. You know what I mean? But that gets into a little bit fuzzy financing area with public money. But I think that's another use for those big open spaces like that. That's kind of clever, and there's unfortunately a lot of areas that need it. The area where I live is mostly Pinelands, and it's a resort area, so a lot of times you don't see you don't necessarily see our homeless, because they tend to live in the woods, but there's lots of homeless people. Because like everywhere else, we have the drug problem and all that stuff, but it's not like in the city where the only place for them to be is out in the street. They usually stay in the woods, and if you go in the woods, you'll see that there's tons of homeless. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? It absolutely. So if you were to come here, you would think there's not really a homeless problem here, but there's a homeless problem like pretty much everywhere.
Well, that's a fantastic idea. I didn't even think of that, but that's anytime we can help the homeless and help people that are in need, fantastic. It's what I'm noticing. Those strip malls are very similar because I'm up here in New England, and those strip malls are very similar to all of our vacant mill houses up here. So those giant mills and brick buildings, and now they're making them all into like luxury, apartments. So maybe that's the future for some of these strip malls.
Well, yeah, and depending on the area, you might want to pitch it to the local municipality. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of red tape involved with dealing with all those big commercial buildings.
Right, indeed. I had another investor on not too long ago. I can't call his name, who just strictly does apartments, and I guess every area of real estate is like that. People kind of find their niche and stick with it. And his was he just does apartment buildings. So it's kind of, yeah. And
absolutely.
I didn't think there was like a huge market for that, but apparently it's just like anywhere else. Once you find a niche and that's all you do, then that's it. Now, do you need a real estate license in order to do any of this, or can you just go it alone by just gaining knowledge? In order to invest, you don't need to have a real estate license, right?
Yeah, no real estate license needed. So we have associates around the country that we partner with and do deals with, and some of them hold their license. My father-in-law and brother-in-law both used to hold their license. I never did. It actually brings a little bit more like little nuances in it. If you hold your license, then you always have to disclose that you're a realtor, and if you're calling to buy property, it sometimes just makes things a little more slippery. Because if somebody's gotten a call from 100 different realtors to list their house, and then you call to provide a different option for them, but you then have to reveal that you're a realtor, sometimes it just kind of gets in the way. So we tend not to hold our license, but some people do. It's just there's pros and cons to both.
I can see how that could get messy. Especially with, I hold an insurance license. Any of those licenses, things just get messy. Does it? Because
anytime you have to report to a board, that's
right. Anytime the government's involved, it's going to get dicey. Anytime the government says, who was it? I think it was Ronald Reagan. It says, if there's a knock on the door and the government says, I'm here to help you. We're the government and we're here to help you. They're probably not. And, all these regulations are in place for the protection of the consumer, supposedly.
Sure.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
So how do you use social media with your real estate business? And I'm assuming that however you use it can also be parlayed into other businesses. So I'm always interested in how people in different genres or different areas of business use their social media. How do you use it for leads? How do you use it?
To be honest with you, I don't use it for leads. I just use it more for comfort level with people, and just for credibility. Because we have our A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau up here, and so we're always working on our credibility, and especially when you're buying and selling property that's maybe a little different, a little more creative than most people are used to. Especially if people don't wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, I want to go sell my property on a lease option," or "I want to own or finance my house." What they say is, I'm going to call a realtor and I'm going to go sell it, or I'm going to throw up on Zillow for sale by owner. So so this niche and my family's niche is definitely more of an education process, because you're teaching somebody about a different way on how to sell their property or how to buy their property. So we use it primarily for education. So what we'll do is we'll put out a video or two a week going over commonly asked questions, or showing more recent property that we have to drive some traffic, but just more or less to give people a better feel of who we are, what we do, and that we're really here to help and find solutions.
Yeah, I think a lot of times whenever you're doing something a non-traditional way, people are suspicious as to whether or not it's legitimate, and I would think that would be the same thing in real estate. Listen, tell the audience where they can pick up your book, which is very informative. One of the blessings about having the show is that I get so much knowledge. I cheat because people send me these books and investing information, and thank you for signing it too. By the way, I appreciate it very much. Actually, I think Dad signed it too. Yeah, so I appreciate this book very much. But how can people get in touch with you on any of your social media and follow what you do and look at your videos and that kind of thing and get your book?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll give you our book for free. No shipping, no handling. We're not like everyone else there. You don't gotta pay for shipping or handling. We want to give it to you absolutely for free. All you gotta do is go to the website and give us your address, and we'll ship it right out there. So you're gonna go to the website. It's New Rules for Free. It's spelled out for free. So NEWRULESFORFOREE. That's everybody's favorite word. NewRulesForFree.com. Go ahead and go pick up that book. Enjoy it. Dive in. You can follow my family and I at smartrealestatecoach.com. That's our website. And then also on social media, on Facebook, it's Smart Real Estate Coach. And then on Instagram, it's at Smart RE Coach. And then YouTube is definitely our biggest channel, and that is youtube.com/Smart Real Estate Coach. So just look up Smart Real Estate Coach, and you'll find our family.
I love it. Thank you so very much for being on the show today. Fantastic information. Go to the website to get a copy of the book for free?
Yeah, newrulesforfree.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show and informing my audience. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. That was Zachary Beach. He's a real estate coach, and he told us all about how to begin real estate investing. And in the first hour, I had Grant Haber, who talked all about IEDs. This show covers talked about IEDs, the expense of it, and what the crisis is. One of the things I love about doing this show is that I can talk about a diversity of topics with different people. So I thought it was a pretty full hour, actually. And John Campbell in the Facebook chat, I hope you got his Facebook page. He did say what it was, and if you can't find it, I will make sure I get it to you. I want to make sure that I thank everybody in the Facebook chat, and I thank my sponsors, Biz Social Personal Touch. John Campbell, thank you very much. He is the one who gave me this lovely mug, the Business Diva mug, which I absolutely love. And you can get all kinds of other fantastic marketing material through his business. Get in touch with John. He's in the Facebook chat. Also, I want to thank Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com and Robert Houston from MrCreditRepair.biz. And thank you all. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And remember, all of this is important because after all, it's your money. Have a great weekend.